I think no matter what financial market you look at, like the S&P year over year up, Bitcoin year over year up, gold year over year up. What does that tell you? Is like not a lot of confidence in the future of fiat currency. Everyone's pricing in currency debasement, right? So it's the collective market is telling us that the future is in hard, scarce assets, not in government currency. And whatever, like deficits are a problem, debt to GDP is a problem, growth's a problem, rates are a problem. But the point is that the market's not buying it this time around, and everyone seems to be collectively terrified. Like Larry Fink and I are on the same page, probably for the first time ever, right? So yeah, 100%. I think the narrative is pretty clear, and they're going to have to print at some point. I mean, they're already printing, right? I think people get too fixated on the cost of capital as opposed to the amount of capital, like the cost of capital being rates, the cost of money. You know, it doesn't matter where rates are as long as they continue to expand credit capital, right? And so they are printing, maybe not through rates, but through swap lines, bank term funding programs, and we are living through inflationary times, even if rates are at 5+%. And assets are winning. Bitcoin's the best performing asset of all time. Yeah, listen, I like the global debt to GDP is my favorite metric because what it tells you, so money is our time and energy in an abstracted form, right? What I mean by that is you guys do this podcast in exchange for money. Someone mows a lawn in exchange for money, fixes a windshield in exchange for money, bags groceries in exchange for money. And so it is our contributions to society, our time, our energy, captured in an abstracted form. For a government to take out debt or borrow money is about borrowing our time and energy. So I think government debt is the closest thing we've ever seen to time travel, because you're borrowing the collective populace time and energy from the future. How do you time travel? Well, we haven't figured that out yet, but how do you get close? Is you borrow human time and energy from the future. And so by looking at global debt, you can see how much time and energy from the human population and its future have been borrowed. And then if you look at the growth, which is what that metric tells us, is how is that time and energy they're borrowing being invested in their ability to pay that back. And with global debt to GDP at over 300%, it means they've borrowed a lot of our future and a lot of our time and energy with no way to pay it back. And what everyone's realizing is that loss has to be realized. So there is a loss. Governments have borrowed our time and energy, in my opinion, arguably maliciously so, without permission, and they don't know how to pay it back. And so I think everyone, including Larry Fink now even, is looking around the room and like, who's realizing that loss? Whose time and energy is going towards paying that back? You know, the dollar is a bad way to store your contributions to the society. You can work for 40 years and never own a home. You can work for 40 years and never be able to afford to own and produce 2 children and a family. You can
forget retirement. Like, that's out of the question.
You can work for 40 years and still need to work 40 more. And I think that resonates with people. And then the next evolution is, well, crap. If I'm going to have time on this planet and express my life through the energy I contribute into the world, where do I store that? What do I exchange for my labor, for my work? And I think Bitcoin is the best answer we got. Why? Because it's fixed in supply. You cannot debase it, right? So it's fixed in supply. It lives without, control of a government or a corporation. And so that's the way I would explain it, very simply put. But I do believe we're in a unique time now where that level of civil unrest and pain has reached a point where people are willing to listen and engage and explore in this topic.
I think that retirement one is a good point.
I mean, it's out of the question for so many people.
Well, me at 45, most people expect 65, they're done. And hopefully can retire before then. But I think, with 20 years to go, it's a very easy question to turn around to people and say, okay, when do you plan to retire? Can you?
Yeah.
What have you got that's going to allow you to retire?
Well, think about it, right? Like, let's say one paycheck gets you a month's worth of groceries, yet, 2 paychecks, whatever, 1 paycheck, 1 month worth of groceries. They debased the currency to where now 1 paycheck only gets you 1 week's worth of groceries. So when they debase the currency, they're debasing you. And so it's requiring more time and energy from you to have a sustainable life. So people can only get married later because they need to contribute more time and energy into this world to be able to start a family, to be able to own a home, to be able to retire, to be able to have groceries, have gas in their tank. And so by debasing the currency, you're requiring more time and energy from individuals and from humans to have a sustainable life, or a life that we all agree is worthwhile. Right? And so that's the crime, and that's the problem. And I think it's reached a point where everyone feels that. And so that's the way I would explain it, is the reason that you don't think home ownership is ever attainable, that you don't think you can have 4 kids and retire early and go to their soccer games and tutor them in math class and teach them how to ride a bike. And the reason that you're worried about divorce because you're economically unstable and there's stress in the household because your future is uncertain is because of your money, because your ability to capture your labor, your time and energy, and the technology you're using to do that. And I would take a look at Bitcoin. That's what I would say.